All right. So, hi everyone. Welcome to session 3 for today of our recovery series that we are doing. I'm Adriana, and I'm so glad to be here tonight also with Veronica, which will be co leading as well with me. Today's topic is going to be identifying personal addiction triggers. By the end of this session, our goal is for each one of you to have a better understanding of what your own triggers are, but also the definition of triggers, and also walking away with a few simple strategies to start maintaining your own triggers. Also, I want to mention that this is a judgment-free zone, free space. Whatever comes up tonight, it's okay. We want to keep it in this space that we're in right now. You're not alone, and your story matters as well. So before we jump in, I kind of want to do a little quick recap from last night or last week of the other session that we did, and kind of just talk about it as well. So the last session that we discussed was goals, goals that we had, and goals for our recovery that we wanted to come up with. If anyone would like to share just how they're going through now and were they thinking about those goals after the session, in a couple days after. If not, it is okay. But after that, then we can move on to the actual session for today. All right. So then we can just move forward straight ahead to talk about triggers. So, trigger is anything internal or internal. This causes a strong urge or craving. It could be a feeling, a place, a memory, or even a smell that sets off the desire or use or to act out an addiction. Triggers usually fall into a few main categories, which I want to give you guys some examples to kind of get your mind kind of thinking already. Emotional triggers like stress, sadness, shame, or even excitement. Environmental triggers such as walking past somewhere that you used to hang out with, or somewhere that you used to be somewhere a lot, or even hearing like an old song they used to hear, and something that may trigger you in a way. Social triggers as well, being around certain people, or even feeling loneliness as well. And then physical triggers, being tired, hungry, or in pain. It's important to remember that everyone's triggers are different. We all have our own triggers that is different to everyone. What sets one person off may not affect someone else as well. And so I kind of want to give the floor over to Veronica, which is the co lead with me today.
Thank you, Adriana. So, after the big meeting that we had, which discussed all the information on triggers and Adriana's kind of explanation on how these may work in regards to your recovery, I want to give everyone a few minutes to journal about their thoughts on the topic. It's up to you whether you want to share at the end something or not. You can keep it private and you can share as much or as little as you're comfortable with. So, first, if you want to spend a minute and then look up when you're ready so that I can move on to the next question, in front of you in your journal, write down what situations lead me to cravings or unhealthy behaviors. Okay, so for the next question, you can write in your journal, which emotions do I avoid or suppress? Okay, and then for the next question, it is who or what often influences my behavior? And lastly, based on what you have reflected on so far, if you want to write down your top 2 or 3 personal triggers that are specific to your situation that maybe you have identified. If you can't get to 2 or 3 yet, that's okay. If you have a few more, that's okay as well. It's just to start thinking about these things. And I know these questions can be very personal, so I'm not going to call on each person. But if anyone has anything that stood out to them during this exercise that maybe you didn't know before, reflecting on these questions, or that you would like to share with the group on your progress so far, or any specific trigger that maybe surprised you, right now it's a time when anyone can share.
Oh, sure. When Adriana mentioned some of the triggers, she said smell, which kind of stood out to me, what I didn't really think about it because, my favorite drug of choice is smoking pot. And so you'll smell it around campus, you'll smell it in the dorms, you'll smell it at parties. And I admit that that makes me immediately want to do it. And then it kind of led to like another thing you guys asked about what influences your behavior. Um, I know that I do it at parties or I do it with my friends, but like thinking about that like word influencing my behavior. And then I wrote strangers under that, which is actually kind of scary that I would like allow strangers to influence my behavior. But if they just like have, the joint and then I smell it and they're like, you want to hit? And it's just like easy to just be like, sure. And a complete stranger has influenced my behavior. And I never really thought of that before. And also when I was thinking of influences, I realized that I'm one of them. Like I'm always asking my friend the same question, you want to take a hit or whatever, and I'm an influencer myself.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very powerful that you were able to recognize all those things, especially yourself as an influence, acknowledging the control you also have with when you're with your friends or when you're at parties. And hopefully, with this exercise, you can start seeing kind of how you can play your part in the recovery process, because sometimes we can't have control over the triggers around us, but we have to have a plan on how we're going to respond to those triggers, which we're going to talk about in upcoming sessions. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
I would say some of the triggers that I've noticed is being alone for too long and also fatigue. To answer the first question, I just said, what was the first question you asked?
It was, what situations lead me to cravings or unhealthy behaviors?
Okay, so when I'm alone for a long period of time and when I'm like doom scrolling, or like if I am on YouTube or on Instagram and I see like a like sexually suggestive like photo or video, I get triggered by that. Um, and the second question, was it the emotions that tend to trigger? It it's exhaustion and loneliness for sure. Um, and the third question is what influences my behavior? And I would say sleepiness, or being hungry. um, but I think after looking at each of the answers to my question, the main theme that I see is being alone for too long and being overly tired. Okay, is like my physical triggers on top of an emotional trigger on top of um, just seeing suggestive content on my feed, whether it be on YouTube or on Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I know that while everyone has different things they struggle with, we can all share in the common types and denominators of those triggers. You know, for someone, it might be something physical, for someone, it might be more emotional, someone more environmental. But once we identify these, we can continue to move forward. And you can also continue to use the SMART goals we worked on last time and apply the triggers to that exercise and say, how am I going to make this specific for the trigger when I am alone? Or how am I going to avoid being alone? And just continue to think about it, what we learned from past sessions, so that we can build on what we're learning and create change.
Thank you.
I also wanted to share, when we were talking about triggers, I wrote down my phone because a lot of times I'll use like an app to go gamble a little bit. And I didn't really realize it until Ashley started talking about her triggers. She put it into a context I didn't really realize that I also do, is when I'm riding the bus or I'm sitting in the library or something and I see somebody else on their computer or on their phone playing an app. A lot of times they'll look very similar and it'll kind of be a trigger for me. And I had never put it into that perspective that there's a stranger kind of, I'm letting them have control to suggest these things to me, and I'll go home or right there I'll get on my phone and start gambling a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you see someone else, even though you don't even know the person, if they're doing a behavior that, you know, you have a challenge with not doing, then it can trigger that for you. And that's important to acknowledge as well and create a plan moving forward on how are you going to, you know, go about. And if you have any questions on creating these plans, you can always reach out to us and we'd be happy to help. And we can always continue discussions with each other and share on the commonalities of our struggles, because I already see so much change happening in the group in just the sharing portion of it and being vulnerable with each other. So thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thank Thank you for putting your input and all of that. And thank you all for those who wanted to share and kind of also shared their triggers. And it seems like all of us kind of started noticing things once that first person started sharing. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't think about that in that way, or I didn't think that a smell would be something that would trigger me into wanting to actually smoke weed or do anything like that. So it's just really figuring out, going pretty deep into figuring out these triggers. I want to emphasize that there's no shame in having triggers. Triggers don't mean failure. They show us where we need more care or even support on with these triggers. And like Veronica said, we are both here if you have any questions or if you want to make a list of all the triggers that you've came across, then we could help you with that as well. And now I kind of want to go and talk about how to deal with these triggers and how to really now that we've kind of recognized the triggers, how do we deal with it? Here are some few tools that I like to do myself. One of them is taking a deep breath, pausing, and taking a deep breath and breathing. When you notice a trigger, take a deep breath in. Do a deep breath in for 5 seconds, 5-10 seconds, and then letting it out for 5-10 seconds. Even 10 seconds can interrupt a reaction that we are feeling. It can and it can interrupt our trigger. Another thing is distraction. Stepping away immediately, take a walk, call a friend, watch something funny to delay this reaction that that is coming from the trigger. And also reaching out to someone as well. Call someone that you can trust. You don't have to fight this alone. When you feel triggered, that is one of the top triggers that you have on your list that you've noticed. This is something that really keeps me, that really makes me want to going back to my old ways. Calling someone immediately so that they can take your mind off of it helps us redirect ourselves in so many ways. So try thinking as you're building your trigger, I guess, toolkit, a list of actions that help you stay grounded, and that either you have tried in the past, maybe it doesn't work, maybe try it again, or try new one kind of talked about so that we can kind of recognize those. To wrap things up, I want to remember that I want us to remember that triggers are a part of the journey. The power lies in recognizing them and choosing how you want to respond as well. So if you want a prompt for journaling for this week, to kind of get your mind kind of thinking about your triggers and your own kind of like list. This week, you can kind of try this little prompt that I kind of just made up. This week, when I feel triggered, I would try to, and then you finish the sentence off. So that's a little prompt that you can kind of keep in your head. You can write it down, and then whenever you're doing your grounding exercises, whether it's walking, whether it's the deep breathing, whether it's just sitting down in your room or listening to music, you can think about those things. When I feel triggered, I would try to do this, and you can finish the sentence in your own way. But I just want to thank everyone that shared today, and I want to thank Veronica for co-leading and helping me with this session. And then in the next session, I believe we will be talking about, sorry, I forgot that I don't have it up on here. But I want to let you guys know that your courage inspires more than you guys know, and inspires other people as well. So thank you guys for joining us for this session.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Adriana.
Thank you. Bye bye.